Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our live session. And today we're going to be exploring some white chocolate mousse. And we're going to be making a blackberry flavored white chocolate mousse, which is perfect for the summertime. And keep in mind, we're going to make a base with the white chocolate and some creme anglaise. Then I'm going to be adding some blackberry puree to this. And keep in mind, you can make this same formula just using the white chocolate without the blackberry. So we'll talk about variations along the way. White chocolate is pretty simple in flavor, so a lot of things go with the white chocolate. A lot of fruits, so you could do a lot of different fruit purees. I chose the blackberry because it's tangy and the white chocolate is sweet, so I thought that they would pair nicely, and the blackberry makes a beautiful color with the white chocolate mousse too. So knowing that, let's go ahead and get started. So I've got my white chocolate melting. What I did is I just brought my pot of water to a simmer, and then I put my bowl of chopped white chocolate on this and took it off the stove, and it's warm enough where it's just kind of working and melting on its own. You'll find when you're working with white chocolate, it has milk solids and sugars in it, and it's a little bit more sensitive to heat than dark chocolate would be. All chocolates, you have to be careful not to scorch them, but the white chocolate is even a little bit more sensitive. So just melting it like this is perfectly fine. It's got a nice gloss to it, and it's melting, and it's not getting scorched or dried at all. So we've got our white chocolate ready to go. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about our base. We're going to be making a little bit of creme anglaise, which is just a classic vanilla sauce with some heavy cream, some egg yolks, and some sugar. And this is going to be part of our base. So let's say maybe you can't have eggs, so you wanted to make a mousse. You can make eggless mousses for sure. You can just make a ganache instead of the creme anglaise and use that as your base with the white chocolate, and then add the blackberry puree. So it's really limitless what you can do, and you can be pretty creative once you have some basic ideas about the techniques. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to warm my cream. I just have a small amount. We're making a little batch for this, and I am going to whisk together my yolks and my sugar. Okay, so my yolks and my sugar, I'm keeping them separate until I am ready with my warm cream to do some tempering and then put this back on the stove. The reason being is, you may hear from some chefs, oh, if you mix the egg yolks and the sugar together, it's going to cook. It doesn't really cook. It's just the proteins are kind of coagulating, and the sugar is absorbing the hydration, and then all these little proteins they hang out and they cluster together, and you get these little kind of little lumps and chunks that are the color of the egg yolk, and they can't be whisked out. So once this is changed in this way, there's really no going back. So this is why you're waiting until you're ready until you add these. So you wouldn't want to add the egg yolk to the sugar, an hour ahead of time. Short amount of time is okay, but I usually kind of do it as I need it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my cream here, and we're going to bring it to a near scald. It's going to start to boil a little bit. It's a super small amount, so I'm going to go ahead and mix these egg yolks in. Okay, so we should be okay because we're not going to be waiting too long. If you had a large amount of cream for a large formula, you might want to hold off doing this, but we'll be okay for the short amount of time. And please stop me if you have any questions. So, like I said, we're making a base here, and then how we're handling it temperature-wise is very important too. So we've got to make sure that this is warm enough to dissolve our gelatin that we're adding, but not too warm where it's going to melt our whipped cream. Okay, so I'll kind of explain things as we go along, but be sure to ask any questions. Okay, that's getting a little warm. It's a process, right? Okay. Don't want to have this on too high because it can get away from you and really rumble up and kind of boil over. So kind of hang out, especially if you're doing a small amount, and even a big amount too would make quite a mess on a stove in a commercial kitchen. So keep an eye on your creams and your milks when you're bringing them to a near scald. Okay, feel it getting warmer. We're going to temper half of it in, and then we're going to turn it back into the pot to cook this vanilla sauce a little bit. It's creme anglaise. I put a little bit of vanilla in my cream here before we started. You could use any extract really if you wanted to bring some lemon or some orange into this emulsion. That would be nice too. So it's really limitless what you can do with flavor profiles. Okay, so this is being brought to near scald. Then we're going to temper this egg mixture, and this is a little bit of a lighter creme anglaise. You'll see these thicker. All right, that needed a little bit of attention, right? Okay, so you may see these a little bit thicker, and I like to use a little bit of a thinner creme anglaise when I'm making my mousses. Okay. All right, so let's put this back on the stovetop, and we're going to thicken this, and I might actually thin it down with a little bit of cream if it gets too thick. Okay, so don't go anywhere, guys. Once you do this, especially with a small amount like I have here, it can really get away from you. Okay, I can feel this becoming a little bit thicker. And I usually cook it until it kind of just starts to boil around the edges. Do you have a question? Okay, so this is plenty thick enough, guys, and I didn't hear the question. The lemon extract is, it's like an emulsion, and it won't affect the creme anglaise with the acidity. It's going to be very strong and very concentrated. Okay, so I've got my creme anglaise here, and what I'm going to do next is I have a little bit of gelatin, and I'm going to soften this with some water. But I want to get my creme anglaise out of this pot because of its carryover cooking. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that to make sure that we don't have any of that carryover cooking. Okay, all right. Warm creme anglaise kind of set aside. Okay, so I've got some powdered gelatin. You can use sheet gelatin too. What I'm doing is I'm just softening this with some cool water. So I'm just really hydrating this gelatin, and then I'm going to dissolve it with heat, and I'm going to dissolve it by adding it to the warm creme anglaise. Okay, so you can do this ahead of time and just let this gelatin set aside, and it may turn into one big chunk, and that's okay. It's going to dissolve once you put it into the creme anglaise, the warm creme anglaise. See, it's getting a little bit thicker here. Okay, like I said, it can turn into a solid chunk, but it's going to dissolve. Okay, so I have this completely softened, and sometimes you'll hear the term bloom. All right, so let's go ahead and add this to our creme anglaises, and this is going to help our mousse thicken, and our white chocolate is going to help the mousse thicken as well. Okay, so now we have a nice base going. We've got our gelatin dissolved in our warm creme anglaise, and what we're going to do next is we're going to add our chocolate, our white chocolate. Okay, while this is still warm, so we're adding two warm things together, which is perfect. And we have another question. How many sheets of gelatin? Typically, the general rule for gelatin to powdered gelatin to sheet gelatin conversion is a half a teaspoon of powdered gelatin for every sheet of gelatin. Okay, and I'm using Knox powdered gelatin, and they do have conversions on their website. So there's what's nice about these bigger companies. You can find a lot of conversions on their website for their products too. Okay, so in goes the warm white chocolate into the creme anglaise. Okay, guys, hope I'm not blocking that. So we're going to whisk this in, and this is part of our base. So it's looking pretty good. Okay, it's going to change color a little bit like this, glossy from all the sugar in here. No lumps at all. Looks pretty good. Next, we're going to add our flavoring with our blackberry puree. So I just took some frozen blackberries that I bought at the grocery store. I thawed them out, blended them, and strained them. Blackberry seeds are kind of big, so I recommend straining, but if you don't want to strain the seeds out, you absolutely do not have to. So blackberry is a little on the tangy side, so I put a little bit of sugar in this puree too. Okay, guys, so it's going to turn a nice, pretty purpley color. This is the beauty of the blackberry. It brings a nice color to these mousses. And a nice tang, some floral notes too, very flavorful. Okay, so my blackberry puree is at room temperature. You don't want it cold. Let's say you blended your blackberries when they're really cold. You want to let that warm up to room temperature, because if you're adding something cold to this, you may end up seizing it. Okay, so I think I have a good amount of blackberry in here. I'm just going to add a little bit more. I'm adding about equal amounts of the blackberry and the creme anglaise. Okay. All right. So nextly, this mixture is looking pretty good. It's pretty smooth, no lumps at all, and I'm feeling it, and it's just a little bit warm. Okay. So we're not going to fold our whipped cream in just yet because it's a little too warm. And what can happen is we can melt the cream and dissolve all of those aerosols, and that's going to give us a very runny mousse. Okay. So let's go ahead and chill this a little bit. I've got some ice. You can just put it in a little bath of ice. My ice was melting a little bit, so it is a little bath of ice. But it's okay, it's going to do the trick. It's coming around the sides. Keep an eye on it, guys. You don't want to chill this too much because you can start to seize the chocolate and set the gelatin too, and then it's not going to fold into the whipped cream very well. Okay, so I'm monitoring this. I can already feel some pull on the bottom with some setting. Okay, so you just want this to be just a little warmer than room temperature, I would say. So it's still feeling pretty warm. So, you know, touch your things, taste your things too. Okay. And if by chance you have let it go a little too long on the ice, chilled it a little bit too much, what you can do is just put it back on this double boiler that we had the chocolate on, warm it up a little bit, and that's going to kind of bring it back to where you were. Okay, so it's starting to set up a little bit, so I'm pulling it off the ice while I can catch up, so I don't have to put it back on the double boiler. Because if you let it go too long, you really are going to have to warm it up again. Okay. All right, so it's feeling pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold through the whipped cream next. And you're going to see that this is a beautiful mousse. And like I said, you can make a version with just white chocolate or any purees. Be careful with strawberry. They have a lot of hydration in them, so it brings a lot of water to any dessert. So strawberries are tricky, but raspberries and blueberries are perfect. Okay, so I've got some whipped cream that I whipped up earlier. I've got a little bit of sugar in here. When you're folding whipped cream with these mousses, you don't want to whip it too stiff. You still want it to be a little bit on the soft side. Okay, so nextly we are going to fold through some of our softly whipped cream. Any questions, guys? Okay, it's pretty easy to do, and like I said, you can make an eggless version by just using a simple white chocolate ganache and add your fruit puree to that. And if you're going to use some gelatin, you would warm up the fruit puree so you can dissolve that gelatin because you need something warm. Okay, so it's not too cool. I think it's okay. So let's go ahead. We are going to fold in a little bit of the whipped cream, kind of do a little bit of tempering, and then we'll fold in a little bit more. You're going to see how beautiful this is, and it's going to be very light and fluffy as well. So I kind of like to start out by folding in a little bit of the whipped cream, kind of do a little bit of tempering. So what I'm doing is I'm just going from the bottom to the top. I'm rotating my bowl around. You want to be gentle and careful that you're not folding out or pushing out any of those air cells that you've created, okay? So don't stop and answer the phone when you're at this stage, because you've got something cool in here and you can end up seizing your base. Okay, so I'm starting it out with a little bit. With smaller formulas, you may not need to do the tempering, but the larger the batches that you're making, the more tempering that you're going to do. Okay, guys? Okay, so it's looking light and fluffy already. You may have a few little pieces, and you can just kind of push them out. So when you still have a little bit of streaking, that's when you're going to stop. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the rest of this. Okay, what I'm going to do too is I'm going to give my whipped cream a couple of whisks here. I've got some kind of soft pockets in the bottom, so I'm going to whip it up a little bit more. So I whipped this on a stand mixer. It's about a quart. I had a little bit of softness in the bottom, so I'm just whipping it a little bit so it's not too soft. So this mousse is great for putting in glasses, serving as desserts. You can fill cakes with this. It's going to hold up because the white chocolate is going to help with the setting and the gelatin as well. So it's a beautiful color. And if you wanted a little bit more blackberry, you could absolutely put a little bit more in there. Okay, guys? So it's going to be a little bit soft. You can refrigerate this, and then you can pipe it with a bag like a star tip. Or you can just fill your glasses while it's soft. Okay, let's go ahead and fold in some more whipped cream, and then we will be on our way. Okay, any questions? Liqueurs work nice, guys, too. Chambord would be a nice addition to this mousse. That's a blackberry liqueur. It's French. It comes in a pretty bottle. It looks kind of like a crown. It's really beautiful, and it's absolutely delicious. Okay, guys. Want to make sure that your bowl is big enough. Looks like I have just enough room in the bowl here. Kind of cutting it a little bit close, but I still have enough room for my folding. I'm going to move that out of the way so you guys can see. Okay, so it's becoming thicker. I'm being very careful not to press out my air cells. And you're going to watch for some streaking at the end. You'll have a little bit of streaking, and you can just kind of clean that up with your spatula a little bit. Okay, it's a super beautiful mousse. There's no separation, and I just have a few little particles from a little bit of blackberry pulp, but no seeds, and it's absolutely delicious. It smells wonderful. You guys are going to love this for the summertime. Like I said, you can fill cakes with this, or you can serve it in glasses. Any questions, guys? We're getting ready to wrap up here. We've got our basic mousse. It's looking very light and fluffy. And like I said, you can set this up in the refrigerator if you want to do some piping, if you want a firmer mousse. And just be careful, once you take it out of the refrigerator to do the piping, you're going to be careful not to stir it, because you can stir out all of those aerosols and all of that thickness that we incorporated. Okay, so it's a super beautiful mousse, and it's all done. So we have a nice big bowl of mousse. We can fill some glasses. We can scoop it in some glasses in the state that it's in. And we can pipe it in some smaller ones. So I've got this martini glass. You can do a little bit of scooping. So it's going to firm up in the refrigerator. So if you're looking for something a little bit firmer, or if you want to put a little bit of a heavy garnish on here, you might want to set this up. Okay, so super beautiful mousse, and we'll go ahead and pipe a little bit. I have these cute little glasses that I got. They're little mason jar glasses. These are perfect for the summertime. We'll put a little mousse in here. Okay, just going to use my plain bag. It's soft, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the bottom with my pinky. Make sure none comes out. Okay, any questions, be sure to let me know because we are getting ready to wrap up for the day. So please try the mousse, and you can do any version that you like now that you have an idea and a little bit of a foundation. And you can put a little bit of sauce in the bottom of these glasses too, however you like to present it. Let's go ahead and move our mousse out of the way. Okay. And like I said, guys, this is going to firm up for you because of the gelatin and the chocolate. So you can just very carefully pipe this into some of these little jars. Okay. See, the mousse is holding its shape a little bit. You can tell it's still a little bit soft. If it's runny, that means it's a little too warm, your base, when you fold it through your whipped cream. But let's go ahead and put a little bit of whipped cream on top. We have another question. The question is, how do you get it to firm up? In the refrigerator, the gelatin is going to set all the way, and the white chocolate is going to set as well. So if you refrigerate this, it's going to become firm, and like I said, it's going to be firm enough where you could pipe it with a star tip. Okay, guys? We're going to finish this off with a little bit of whipped cream and some blackberries, and we're going to say our goodbyes. So if you have any questions, be sure to let me know. Or you can contact me and I can answer them for you. A little bit of whipped cream is always nice on our mousse. A finishing touch. Maybe a little blackberry. And we are all set. Okay, guys, thanks so much for coming today. Please reach out if you have any questions, and be sure to try the Blackberry white chocolate mousse. This summertime, you're going to love it. It's refreshing, and you can put your own twist on it as well. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time, okay? Bye, guys.